don't be scared to change. Change doesn't mean failure. Change doesn't mean always starting over. Change is just continuing on the purpose road. So change is just a process.
You are and will always be your most valuable asset. Welcome to the Me Inc. podcast, a series of conversations with individuals living happy, healthy, and engaged lives, while exploring the importance of emotional intelligence to thrive in this ever-changing world. My name is Nigel Franklin, a CPA, MBA, and a certified emotional intelligence coach. My mission and passion is to enable others to be that best version of themselves by understanding the importance of making investments in their physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Let's start the show. For today's conversation, I have with me Souley Oumarou. Souley and I have known each other for quite some time now, I guess from his days in college. I'll let him introduce himself, but he is probably one of the most cosmopolitan people that I've met along the way. He is a child of the world, been many different places. Looking forward to an insightful conversation about change, starting over, and just growth, personal growth, finding your passion, and then chasing that. So Souley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
It's an introduction for the audience. Who is Souley?
Yeah. So Souley is your tax reclaim specialist turned filmmaker / entrepreneur. So 2001 is when I moved to New York. I went to school. I have an accounting degree. I worked on Wall Street for 6 years and then realized that I don't love it and that I have a better purpose than Excel spreadsheets. Okay. I am from Niger. That's in West Africa. And we say Niger. Some people say Niger. As long as you don't confuse it with Nigeria, I'm okay.
Messed up. I do have a lot of Nigerian friends.
I grew up in Niger in the early 80s. I come from a village outside of the city with no electricity, no running water. And in the village has maybe less than 100 people. And my dad is the only person who sent his kid to school. And that's how I ended up being here.
I'm sure there's a lot of in-betweens. So small village outside of the city. And what's the importance of the school or the educational part of it? What's that?
Education is definitely is very important. Education opened the world to us. When I say us, I mean my family, my brothers and sisters. My father himself never been to school. My mother never been to school. But he worked with people in the city and he saw that they put the kid to school and then he decided to do the same thing. And that's how he lost us.
That's how he lost it.
Yes.
That's how he lost. Then what's that first part? So to be the first ones to go to school from such a small village, the early experiences that we have are formative to how we show up today.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So tell me about that so you're in the village, the first one to school. What's that experience like?
For me, I don't know. It's opened a whole other world that I can never even think of. I can never fathom. I didn't even know another world existed until I started going to school. And Niger is a French colony, so the school was in French, so I have to learn French, the alphabet and everything. But for a long time, I'm in between the two cultures. So go to school, learn the French way of doing things, and then come home and stick to my Fulani. I'm Fulani, that's my ethnic group. Revert back to my Fulani default mode, if I can say that. But going to school opened up a lot for me, reading and learning about other culture, knowing that other horizon exists beyond the horizon that I wake up and see every morning. I wake up, I see the sun, it goes up from east to west. That's all I knew until the age of 7 when I started going to school. Where I grew up, there's no TV.
Okay.
My dad had a small transistor radio that he used to listen to the news because early 80s in Niger, there's one government that runs everything. And if they have a message, they use the radio to talk to people. On Sunday, they will have theater. That's like entertainment programs on Sundays. And we'll just gather and listen to the theater on the radio. It's like a podcast of the 80s. You know?
That is an interesting way of seeing it, though. There's so much similarities in the world. I grew up with my grandfather listening cricket on the same radio in the Caribbean. But we had a TV, although it was a black and white one. But we had the TV. So just mess with people.
So you said black and white. Obviously, the TV in Niger was also black and white. And that's later on, right? At some point, My father got a job as a chauffeur in the city. So sometimes, occasionally, he'll drive the car home. So he decided to buy a TV. And he would use the car battery to power the TV, put it on the hood.
Yeah.
And TV only, in the 80s in Niger, they only had TV 3 days a week. And it's from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. So there's a short program, hook up the battery, the kid watch, everybody can watch. Whoever never knew what TV was would come from far to come and witness this technology. It's amazing.
I'm laughing because we had one television station on the island, but it was on for most of the day. So 3 days a week.
3 days a week, yes. On Sunday, they have French cartoons. So we'll watch French cartoons on Sunday.
Yeah.
And from 6 p.m., we know there's French cartoon for 1 hour.
Yeah.
That's like the best. It's like a kid today having Disney. It's like the equivalent. You can't wait for Sunday to come as a kid to watch the cartoons. And it's amazing because I'm just wondering, why these little things talking? They look like people. They're not people. What are they? Is there like a planet somewhere where people like this exist? Or no, I didn't know it was like drawing that people drew and put words to it. I didn't know. I don't know.
Uh-huh. But sometimes it's important to reflect on those that where you're coming from. And I know at some point we had that conversation that sometimes we are really caught up in where we are now and not being where we want to be, but we really don't think about how far we've actually come in life. Because if you think really where you started from and where you are today, you can smile because you survived through so many trials, so many setbacks. We probably didn't even know you were going to end up here today. But like, those are some of the conversations that I would have with myself. But I'm just going back and I'm picturing you as that little kid being fascinated with the TV and
the cartoons.
Because now I'm going, and I appreciate now your passion for the visual arts stuff. So I'm connecting it back to that, and I'm going, that is so interesting that this is the space that you're in now. Help me bridge that.
No, absolutely. When you grow up not having anything to help you do anything, and now when you look at it now, you reflect on it, you appreciate where you are today. In elementary school, I remember we used a kerosene lamp. Like I said, it's no electricity. So there was a kerosene lamp. You put kerosene in it, you put matches, you light it. That's how you study at night. Once that lamp ran out of kerosene, that's it. You cannot study. So for all the kids today, have all the electricity they want, to power whatever, all the light they can possibly get. Don't take it for granted. When I reached middle school, one of a friend gave me a calculator, a small calculator. That was another fascinating. It's like, you give me an $8,000 MacBook Pro today. Maybe it's even higher than that. They appreciate, like, you can write 1 + 1 and then equal 2. Wow. You don't have to do anything. You can multiply 8 times 36 and it gives you a number. Oh my God. It's like heaven for me, like in elementary school. But it was a solar calculator. So at night, it doesn't work. I'm sorry. This is just facts. I would bring it next to the kerosene light. It will work, but you would see the numbers on the screen, but they kind of faded. And that's how I use it at night. But then again, when the kerosene light runs out, that's it for the study. I was very persistent. I knew I loved learning because I was very curious. And I knew it was showing me something that I don't know at all. And I knew I would come back to my friend and say, hey, I learned this today. And pretty much they didn't learn anything because they did not go into school. But that day they learned nothing. I learned something. So I was curious. I was happy with that. But yeah, that's the beginning of it.
That's a really interesting way of actually seeing it, like looking at that opportunity and looking back, little things that we do, little opportunities that we have here or there, actually separates us from everyone else significantly down the road. So for me, that was the opportunity of coming to the US. But I'm sure you've lived in so many different places. Maybe that's where you start. So you're growing up through school.
Yeah, let me continue. So I'm in the middle school in my village. Not in my village, because in my village, only my family went to school. But there's another distant village when one family went to school.
Wait, how far is school?
School was about 4 miles.
And how are you getting to school?
So 8 miles round trip.
How are you getting to school?
So I would walk to school, but I start getting smarter and hitchhiking along the way.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at it. It's just
either people on bicycle, people on motorcycles, rarely car, because actually you will see a car pass once a week in the village. You don't see cars. Like people see cars, they're like, oh wow, this is cool. So once a week you will see, because it was on the way to Burkina Faso, which is like the neighboring country. So there's a main road that goes there. But there was in the 80s, there's not that many cars. Occasionally you will see 15-wheelers, like the big truck that comes from the ports, like in Togo, Lomé, or Cotonou. So they will bring goods. But that was it. So I would walk, I would hitchhike. But sometimes people get sick of taking me to school or giving me rides. So they find reason not to take me to school. So they will say, oh, I have a flat tire. I cannot do this today. I don't have enough air. They don't say I have flat tire because obviously it's not flat day riding, but they say I don't have enough air in my tires. So I cannot take you. More load will just mess up with the bikes.
So 8 miles round trip to school, to and from school.
Yes. And
starting at 7.
Yes.
Okay.
For 6:30, school started at 8 in Niger. So I have 2 hours. Like I wake up at 6. By 6:15, I have to be out. So I have 2 hours to get to school on a kid's foot. Like an adult would do those miles in maybe an hour, 20 minutes. But a child would do it like 2 hours.
I'm sorry. I'm going to keep laughing because the experiences are different.
Crazy experience. One of the people would say, oh, you don't have a helmet. So, by law, you need to have a helmet to go on a motorcycle. So I went to my dad. I said, hey, you cannot buy me a bike. Can you buy me a helmet? He didn't have a helmet. He didn't have the money for the helmet, or maybe he didn't want to do it, but he sent me to a neighbor to go find if I can figure out if I can get a helmet. Sure enough, I got a helmet. And now, whenever somebody tell me you don't have a helmet, I just raise it. I say, hey, here it is. Let's go.
So it's interesting. It seems like your father sacrificed a lot for you guys to get to where you are today. How does that show up in your world today?
Yeah. Saying that my father sacrificed a lot is an understatement because I didn't say this earlier, but I have 16 brothers and sisters. So to keep everybody in school, to keep everybody afloat, to have food on the table, and all that is a lot of work from him. And looking back at it, like what he did, this is one man with a big family. Like today, I live in the United States. I have a decent job. I cannot do half of what he was able to do. There's no way I can feed 16 kids. It's just not possible.
I'm sorry.
So it makes me humble. It makes me appreciate what he did. And it makes me also appreciate life today. It makes me appreciate the war. It makes me look at things and know that life is going to be okay, regardless. Because when I see where it started and where I am today, it's just a process. Things are going to be, it makes me humble in a way that nothing is the end of the world to me. I'm an entrepreneur now. If somebody tell me no, okay, no big deal. I came here to the US in 2001. I had $0. Some people say I have $30 or $20 when I came to the US. I had $0 when I came to the US. So anything I have is a bonus. That's how I see life. Anything I have today is bonus. And the effort my dad did put in me, I give that back by helping also people in Niger. I pay for people's tuition. Somebody's sick, they call me. This is how, and no matter how much it costs, I really don't care. I do it, I appreciate it, and I move on. But yeah, that's it. And I don't expect anything back to what I am today. So when I moved to New York, I went to school and I worked in New York City on Wall Street. When I realized that job wasn't for me, I just decided I'm going to leave, even though some people would have said, why would you leave a decent job on Wall Street to go do filmmaking or photography? To me, it didn't matter because I knew that I had nothing. I can just go and move on to something else.
And start over?
It wasn't very difficult for me.
What was it about filmmaking?
So I have always been interested. I only have one photo of my childhood. I was 12, that's it. I don't have any picture before 12 and I don't have any picture after 12 until 20-something. So that's the only thing. So image always kind of interesting to me. It's just captured me. It's just kind of pulled me towards it. I was living in Brooklyn and my roommate was a film student at NYU. So I saw him edit videos and how he can control it. He can reverse and rewind and tweak and choose what to show and choose what not to show. So that fascinated me. I want to learn this thing. So while I was going at Baruch, I was learning filmmaking on the side. And then when I was on New York at the job on Wall Street, I decided to just find a film school. And I left and went to DC. And then after that...
Wait, but you didn't just find some film school, right? So
right.
What? Because I was so impressed for the audience again. Souley and I met while he was doing his accounting
I didn't
at
help
Baruch,
with some
right?
intangible asset.
You know what's funny is like for West Indian folks who probably would listen to Sue here, the story is that Souley actually worked
At a Trinidadian restaurant.
Yes, right.
Trini to the bone.
On Flatbush Avenue, right?
On
Still my favorite place. I go there.
Good.
It's
I always
actually
go
called
there when I go back to
Sugarcane.
New York. Yep.
So I'd always still go there for the bus up shut.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
With the mango chutney or curry mango they put in it. Oh, it's amazing. That's good.
But what was cool about this is that I actually did an intern event at Sugarcane. And Souley was probably one of the few people who asked, what do you guys do? We talked about it. And I think maybe it's one of the other subsequent stuff he's asked to exchange information, and he asked me for help with his accounting homework. Little did he know that I was not a very good accountant, probably still not, but that's how we started. And like 15 years later, here we are, right?
Exactly.
I think that transition from accounting to film, or it wasn't, right? So you just I went to DC to film school, but it's a much more distinguished stuff than that. So where did you go, and how did you bridge that gap? Because you just, again, you picked everything up and moved to DC.
Yes.
And,
yes, I was working in New York, and then I knew that this is not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I know I have a thing for film. It reached the point where I was working in New York was a little bit stressful. And when somebody sent me an email, it says file. When I read the file, the word file, I read it as film. I'm like, why is so-and-so asking me a film?
Yeah.
Like, why is he asking me about a film? So I have to double check the email and see, he said, send me the file, not send me the film. So that's how I know it's a sign for me to get out of there and go to film school. So I had just gotten married. I moved to Virginia with my wife, and then I researched entry filmmaking because I love storytelling. And I found a program at George Washington University. I just went online and signed up, did an interview, and got in, and that was the beginning of things getting serious.
What are you doing now here in Dayton?
I just came back from Qatar. I was in Qatar for the last 5 years. I moved there with my family. My wife got a teaching job there. It's the Middle East. I was like, okay, why not? And I Googled Qatar. It says it's the wealthiest country on earth. I was like, all right, I don't mind being moving to the wealthiest country on earth. So I went there. I continued doing my video production, because now I just graduated from George Washington University, and I just continued doing freelance initially, and then work for a couple racing clubs, video production firms also in Qatar, filming sports events, corporate documentaries, stuff like that. I just moved back a year and a half ago, and then to the US, because Qatar has certain laws that are not really, I don't know how to say it, but I went there with my wife under her sponsorship, and in their law, if you come under your wife's sponsorship, you're not allowed to work technically on the books, basically. Right. So most of the stuff I did there was off the book, or just, they're not very strict about finding out if you're not working on the book or off the book or paying taxes, because there's no taxes there, so they don't care.
Yep.
So that's it. But you cannot get like a legit job per se if you go under your wife's sponsorships. But the wife could have gotten a job if she went under my sponsorship. So it's just like different culture laws that they have there that didn't sit with me very well.
Yeah. So you're back in the US now, a year and a half, and what's the
story from the US? I was in New York, and then I started looking for work, trying to do creative work, and then I got an offer here in Dayton, Ohio. I chose to send resumes in cities where I know people, where I have friends, so that I can transition easily. And my childhood friend who I went to school with in Niger happened to live in Dayton, so I put Dayton on the list. And sure enough, I got an interview from Dayton, and I moved here to do marketing. I was hired to be a marketing director for healthcare staffing company. And then the bosses or the owners decided we should create a media company. And that's how we created Empower Media. Yeah. And that's what I've been running since a year ago.
Yeah. That's interesting, though, because it dovetails into kind of what you're passionate about, to find your way back to that media space. What was actually cool, though, was to see some of the things that, maybe we'll come back to that later, what that experience was like in Qatar. But like, I want to just back it up for a few, and then let's go a little bit more into who Souley is, right? Like where you're from. And when I say that, the upbringing, a little bit more about who you are, just so the audience can hear and actually appreciate that. So you're in school now. What's the experience like? And you just talked about coming back to the village and sharing with other individuals, but how did that propel you forward? Looking back to that experience, usually it's foundational. How did that, at 7 years old, getting put into school, walking the 8 miles round trip to school, figuring out how to commute and whatever else. But how does that propel you forward? Or how is that foundational to you today?
The experience with the school and everything, it opened the doors for me. Like I can read it, I can understand things. And sure enough, I read anything that passes in front of me. How did that translate to today? I'm still very curious. I still know that there's enough wealth of knowledge there that I need to attain. So because of the autodidacticness that I had from my childhood, I was able to teach myself editing. Before even I went to George Washington University, I already learned how to edit on Final Cut Pro because I saw my roommate doing it, editing in his room. I went to the Apple store in New York City, and the software cost $1,500 at that time. Today you can get it for $300, but in 2004 it cost $1,500. I purchased it. I sat in my room and I learned it because I was just curious.
Yeah,
I was just curious. The same hunger of learning still stayed with me.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm using today as a pedestal to just prepare myself more, because the more you know, the better.
Yeah.
I think, especially in this industry, like in filmmaking, you always have to keep up to date because technologies change, tools change, and you always have to constantly learn about them.
Everyone talks about continuous learning. We talk about it, but not necessarily live it. So I like the idea of you living and learning as you move forward. You talked about starting over at zero. Get me to moving to the US.
I never tell you how I ended up here. So I wanted to come to America. I was telling you that another village near my village, one of the guy came to New York in 91. Okay, he was a student because like my father sent me to school, his father sent him to school too. So he came to New York on a YMCA program and came here for 3 months, and he went back with pictures. I'd never seen anything American before. He showed us pictures of New York City. I'm like, I have to be there. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I must be there.
Yeah.
He's amazing. And he was talking about the World Trade Center, the highest building on earth. He showed the picture. His building is so tall that if you have a pen in your pocket and you're looking up, the pen will fall out because you're just leaning back. You're just leaning back. So I was like, this is amazing. He's speaking English, and English was amazing. I was like, can you teach me the language? So I would write things in French in a book. I had a notebook. I write things in French that I want to use casually sentences. And he'd write it in English for me. He'd read it and then I learn it. At some point where I don't know how I ended up with a tape of Tracy Chapman. So Behind the Wall is the song. I told him, can you please listen to this song and tell me what this person is singing? Because I didn't even know if she was a man or a woman. Actually, she's from Ohio, which is kind of interesting. Right. So he would listen to it and just write what she's saying in English and then write it in French also. And so I used that. That's how I started learning English. And then later on came like tape from Bob Marley. So I would listen to it, but that's confusing, a lot of confusion because the slang is not in the dictionary, some of it.
So you're listening to Jamaican music,
to learn
messing
English.
Up your English.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay, all right. So that's an interesting one.
My curiosity continued. And when I was in high school, my high school was in the city now. Now it's even further. It's like social help. So the government give people, if you live really far from your school, the government will give you a little bit of money. So I bought a bicycle. It's just tires and a frame and a steering wheel, that's it, and a brake. I bought it cost me like $20. It was nice. But then the American Cultural Center happened to be not too far from my school. And I already saw that this guy spoke this English and he would listen to the VOA, the Voice of America. Americans don't know it, but it's a radio station that broadcasts to the rest of the world. So he was listening to it. I'm like, how are you understanding this thing? I want to be like, so I started going to the American Cultural Center. And then sure enough, one day, Boston University here has a program where they sent students in the 90s and even early 2000s. But now they stopped the program because of insecurity reasons. I met 3 students from Boston University at the American Cultural Center, and I stopped and I talked to them the same way I stopped and talked to you. I said, hey, I want you guys to come visit me at my house. Like, sure, it's American in the middle of the desert. Of course, the invitation is awesome. But that's how we became friends. They left back. I think one of them worked for the Boston Consulting Group in London now. But when they came back here, following term, another group of students came. So now the director of the program knows me at the American Cultural Center. She said, hey, Souley, there's some students coming next week. You want to come and meet them and make them speak with them and make friends and show them Niger? I was like, sure. They speak English? She's like, yeah. the Americans. Wow, that's awesome. So this is how I got the American connection. And I asked one of my friends, I said, can you find me a school in the US? I want to come to school in the US. He's like, "Can't, but I'll ask my father." His father was the CFO of the Madison Square Garden, and then Time Warner, and then Viacom and CBS, all of that thing. Mm-hmm. He told me his father was in the music industry. I thought he was like a homeless guy playing music in New York. That was the idea I had in my head. But then when I saw the office in Rockefeller or whatever, it was amazing. So sure enough, he's asked his dad, and his dad sent me an affidavit of support, and they registered me in a local ESL school in New York City. And I went and got the visa and came to the US.
That's an interesting
just
story.
For asking.
Yeah, I want to bounce back to Qatar. I know your upbringing is very different. So to move from West Africa to the US and then to live in the Middle East, my time overseas was hugely transformative. What's the growth trajectory? What are some of the things that you experienced, learned at that transition in life?
In Qatar, they had a lot of activity. Qatar is a good place for families. If you're a single guy, you want to move abroad, don't move to Qatar. Maybe go to Dubai.
Yeah.
But if you have family, everything in Qatar is family oriented. Even like the beaches, I don't know, it's not the correct say, but if you want to go to the beach, there's like section for families. So only families can go there. If you go there as a single guy, they're not going to let you go in the water. They know. The parks, everything is custom made around families. Like outside, you have things for exercising. So yeah, that's Qatar. Qatar is like a family-oriented country. It's a very small country, about 250,000 people. That's the population of the whole country. That's like a fraction of Flatbush Avenue.
That's still bigger than Grenada. Though.
Yes, really?
Yeah. Grenada has 120,000 people or something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
But very different though. But now, go ahead. Yep.
But then Qatar allowed me to kind of explore and see what kind of aspect of creative content I can create. So I get to test everything that I learned at George Washington University, I guess I would say, from photography to videography and all kind of aspect of each of those, if it makes sense. Like food photography or food videography. Mm-hmm. I'm in Qatar. I want to do it. I can try it because now life is a lot less stressful than New York. I didn't have to wake up and go to work every day. You know, when they brought the family there, they paid for everything. You get free housing. They give you 20% towards your new car. They pay your phone bill. You even get free Wi-Fi at home. So I don't know who would want to be there, but it gave me the opportunity to explore other things and pick and choose what project I like to work on.
Biggest learning from being there?
Biggest learning from being in Qatar? Skills-wise or
just period? Life-wise.
Life-wise. Biggest learning is America is not the end of the world. People live very comfortably elsewhere on the earth. The earth is big. Explore it and go see where you may or may not fit.
So you talked a little bit about change. So you've had a lot of change.
Yes.
How do you wrap your head around change management and approaching? I think change is scary.
Very.
But how do you approach it? Because you've taken some drastic action. If you were speaking to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself? And two, how has that changed over the years?
Because of how I grew up, I think change doesn't scare me because from change, I always expect something better. If I'm leaving something, I always expect the next thing that I'm going to be better. Some friends blame it on me being a Gemini. I have two personalities in me, but I can easily adapt to change.
But how do you adapt?
How do I adapt is, again, remembering, where I come from.
Uh-huh.
If I remember what I had when I came here, which was nothing, I can change. And even if I had to start from zero, I know I can do it. I can kind of do it because I know I learned something. I learned something already. So the next step, I already have something to back up on the next. I have not a B plan, but I'm not starting from scratch doesn't even mean it's almost never starting from scratch because you have something already in your pocket.
Yeah, that's interesting. So sometimes I think if you've done something for long enough, you start feeling like that's your identity. And the separation usually is from the identity. And when I started my last new job, what was interesting was that when I walked in the building for the first day, it says you have to be willing to let go of who you are to become what you want to be.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear you say that in that way. But I think it's a perspective that I'm going to involve through change management, right? Because we don't want to change because
comfort.
Yeah, we like what we have. And I think sometimes someone's probably heard me say this before. We like what we have so much. Or I think that the saying is, don't like what you have so much that you won't be willing to give it up for something better. But you've started over repeatedly. So back to that question, what advice you give your younger self if you're looking back on it now?
Advice to my younger self. Even though I'm not afraid to change, I have listened to other people. So other people's opinion kind of influence my decision sometimes. I would tell my younger self not to listen to other people when facing change. To go with my guts. Like I always wanted to do film, but people have told me, no, you're doing accounting. Do your accounting. I would have just saved a lot more time if I just went a lot earlier into film. Everything was transitioning from standard definition to high definition. That's the early 2000s. So I'd be right from the beginning. Yeah. I would say don't listen too much.
I'm realizing that there's so many people that I've spoken to who started as accountants and then found their way to something else, but I'm not going to go down that path.
I can tell you quickly how I decided on accounting.
Yeah, go ahead.
For two reasons. I came to New York. I was like, I want to go to school, but I don't know what to study. One of my friends said, you should do Africana studies at Brooklyn College. I'm like, you white people always want African to stay African and do African stuff. I'm not doing anything African. So I told him, no. I look at the New York City, the skyline. If you're on Brooklyn Bridge, you'll see the skyline. I'm like, all these big buildings house so many different enterprises and companies. Each company has an accounting firm or accounting department. So for me to get a job, to make sure I'll get a job after graduation, I should study accounting. That's like the dumbest way. But that's practical. That was my reasoning behind it.
It's practical.
Yeah, New York City is a good place for finance.
You manage the stress of it all. So as you go through it, like there is a lot of stress that's associated with change. There's a lot of stress associated with starting over. How do you manage the stress?
I don't work out a lot. I can tell you that much. How do I manage stress? I talk to people. I listen to music, and I talk to my childhood friends.
Yeah.
One of my childhood friends ended up in France, so I talk to him a lot. Kind of bounce back things too.
How does that help?
It helps in a way that he shows me things that I don't see. Like yesterday, this was who you are. This is who you are today. And I like to listen to old time blues music from the 40s, 50s. Very good music.
That's funny though. It's like you have the voices that you trust, but I would always pull you back. That's some smart. I was at some point would transition into the video part of this whole experience. But for now, I wish the audience could see the smile on my face because there's so much of it that's important. Having outlets, having things that will actually help you down throttle your autonomic nervous system, just make you feel at ease. But then having counsel, friends who you know will give you good advice. So that I always say this, and probably shared it on another episode, but there are friends who I talk to, and I could be way out in left field and they'll say one thing to me and it just sobers me up right away.
Snaps you back in
and
there.
It snaps me right back.
Yeah.
So change, stress, motivation. What's the motivation for you now? What's that stuff that keeps you going?
Legacy. I want to tell my story. There's this African proverb that says, as long as the lion doesn't tell its version of the story of the hunt will always glorify the hunter.
Okay.
So as long as we don't tell,
I really like that.
As long as I don't tell my own story, if I wait for a National Geographic guy or Discovery Channel guy to come to Africa and tell my story, that story is always going to glorify him.
But I think something, and that's why the podcast is here, it's just a series of conversation with people living life in that way, being able to do things that they want to do, chase their dreams, because we always look for other people or like people who are significant, where there's I think when you listen to celebrities and you listen to influencers, whatever else, there's a certain amount of survivorship bias. You bring the conversation down to just the people that you interact with day in and day out, you realize that just so much in the world is possible, right?
Yes, absolutely. And for Niger, there's a lot of untold stories. There's no one legit documentary filmmaker from Niger. Yet, there's so many things that need to be told. And the people who knows the stuff, but it's just off of memory, they'll tell you things, but it's not like that many books or movies or documentary that you can go watch and learn something about Niger. But I think that should change now, especially with the access to technology.
So are you thinking about an entry on your village, or what are you thinking about?
It could be anything. Yeah. Anything. It doesn't have to be the village, but it could be something that comes from the village. For the first time this year, we had an athlete from Niger. It's a girl that competed in Oregon, the International Athletics Championship that happened last July in Oregon. So she was a track runner. She lost in the final. She came fourth.
Do you remember her name?
Who?
You're the person from Niger.
From Niger? Amina saying yes.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
And I talked to her. I said, we need to do a documentary about you.
Yeah.
Because this is the first time a girl from Niger run at that level against the best. And her story needs to be told.
One of the things that fascinates me about you and the interaction is that your willingness to give back, or that ability to treat this experience as more than with yourself. I'll touch on two things. One, there's a bunch of YouTube videos with you and your daughter.
Oh,
And then there's two, there's your willingness to be of service. So a little bit about your family, because they're going through this stuff with you as well. And I know that they're still in Qatar, right?
Yes.
And you're back here. But so talk to me a little bit about that.
My wife still loves Qatar. She has a teaching job there. It's decent. They pay a lot more than New York City, believe it or not. I feel like the United States doesn't do much when it comes to teaching. They don't pay teachers well. It's a always paid job, yet this is the people who are educating the future of the country. Qatar, on the other hand, they go around the world sourcing talented teachers to come educate their children. They'll pay top dollars for that.
That's an interesting approach.
So they will go to the UK, Australia, New Zealand, America, get teachers that are not paid well here, pay them nice there to teach their kids. And you will meet Qatari kids speaking good English as if they're American because they're taught by Americans. One of my daughter's teacher was from the UK. My daughter came home saying, water. I said, Zara, what is water? She was like, started talking the British accent.
Yeah.
So they value teachers. My wife is happy with what she has there. The kids my kids go to Swiss International School, which is it's a private school. It's a very good school. I could not afford to put them in the same, or we could not afford to put them in the same equivalent, provide the same equivalent education in New York if they were here. So they're getting good education. She's happy with that. And it's a lot of iMessages and WhatsApp phone calls.
So that's your sacrifice for the kids now?
It's a huge, huge sacrifice. Absolutely. And I love doing videos with my daughter because she likes doing videos too.
So what got you guys into those videos to share that part of?
That was during COVID. So I'm Fulani, I said that earlier, and a lot of people in West Africa, a lot of Fulanis in West Africa do not speak the language, especially the one that are in English-speaking countries.
Okay.
Like Nigeria, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Liberia. A lot of Fulanis, but they don't really speak the language. People started reaching out to me and asking me questions about Fulani language. So I said, hey, I should just do a YouTube channel about it. And then more questions started to pour. They want to know, they're very curious. So I had to do more videos. So I'm just doing my part. The colibri. The colibri is the little bird, long beak. The story says it, right? So there's a fire in the forest, a huge fire, and this bird is so tiny. And he will fly to the ocean, pick water with the beak, and come and drop on the fire, right? And all the rest of the animals are saying, like, what are you doing? You cannot do anything. The little bird looked at them and said, hey, I'm just doing my part. I said the story because in the teaching the Fulani language, in helping so that the language doesn't disappear, because I feel like in 100 years it's going to disappear. I just do my part by recording some audios and videos online that people can use in the future. That's it. That's just me doing my part.
The second part of that story, you being of service. Today in Dayton, you were volunteering, teaching local entrepreneurs to create video content.
Yep.
But that's not something that everybody does. So you have this experience, but you're paying it forward and you're giving back. And that's what I was trying to get to. Like, it seems like you volunteer, you offer your services. You talked about helping back home. What's driving that? What does that mean to you?
The only reason I reached here today is because somebody helped me. Like when I met those Boston University students, and when he asked his dad, and his dad is sure they found a school for me here, and they helped me. We're not blood brothers, we're not related. They just helped me. So it's for me, I should help as well. It's just giving it forward. When I was coming here, I didn't have money to buy a ticket. His mom sent me a ticket. It was $600 to buy a ticket back then. Today it costs 3 times that. But for me, if I see an entrepreneur or somebody who needs something that I can do, I will do it first. That's it. Once I do it, I know I did something positive. I know I did something good. If monetary benefit comes out of it, good. If it doesn't, at least the benefit and the reward of feeling fulfilled by helping somebody, that's like a benefit to me.
Yeah, it was cool though when I asked you for your help with this. So when Tom went past the 23 million mile, I was like, I'm having this idea, you're doing this, and we were chatting, and you're like, just send me the pictures and I'll put something together. He actually was so grateful for that because it's something that we take for granted, but the world generally isn't as kind as we think it is. People don't just give or are not as necessarily as kind as you are, given without wanting something in return. That's from that perspective. I truly appreciate that. I feel like
if you give and you expect a financial reward, you're limiting yourself to the possibility, because the frontier, like what you're targeting, is the money. So once you get that money, you stop there. You don't put money in front of you. It's unlimited what can come out of it.
For a long time in my life, and I think I shared it with you, like I tried not to make decisions based on the money. Career-wise, the worst decision that I've made was when I made a decision and I let money lead. I never thought of the financial reward as being the goal line and how that would actually limit you.
Because you hit it and then you stop. It's like a wall. If I charge you $1,000 for a project, I hit that, that's it, I get the $1,000. If I don't charge you, it's a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
I don't limit it with money. That's what I'm saying.
When you reflect on your life and your story to this point, what would you say is the through line? What are some of those consistent themes as you go through?
Yeah. So definitely being curiosity, right? Another African proverb, I like to throw them anytime I can, says the curious person can be annoying, but they will never die ignorant. So they'll annoy you all their life, but they will never die ignorant. Learn.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So be curious, right?
Yeah.
Be curious. Don't be scared to change. Change doesn't mean failure. Change doesn't mean always starting over. Change is just continuing on the purpose road. Or change is just a process. Because
yeah, actually, I've never. It's funny. I talk about change management, and I always look at it not being afraid to start over. But that whole idea of that frame of continuing the journey, it's just continuing from the point. It's just a slight change in the direction.
In life, there's a beginning and there's an end, and there's a lot of things in between.
Yeah,
change is just one of the things in between.
The time between the journey from the hospital to the grave, it's not that long, and it's really entertaining. But that's all that you have.
And don't get afraid of asking. Sometimes it's just a matter of you opening your mouth and asking a question. It could be a life-changing thing.
I think you've lived that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's next for Souley?
What's next for Souley is helping people tell their stories while I tell mine, and leaving a legacy eventually.
It sounds simple, but that is actually quite complicated.
It's helping others tell the story while I tell mine also. Yes, and not waiting for somebody to come and tell my story. I prefer to do it because I think nobody can tell it better than me.
My notes from this morning was, no one will ever care more about you than you could or should care about yourself.
Absolutely.
And as I was sharing with you. But no, man, I appreciate the conversation. So Souley, the way we wrap up each conversation is to talk about what the individual learned from their EQI assessment. What did you take away from it?
So first of all, when I took the assessment, I didn't know what to expect. But when I look at it, it looks a little bit scary because I saw that all the bar on the chart, like most of them are like skewed to the left instead of going toward the right, which means there's a lot of lacking on so many of them.
It's not a test, right? It's an assessment. It's a self-awareness tool about where you are currently.
Okay, so right? it's not a GRE.
So it's not, right. This is just you and how you'd show up. How you express yourself, how you cultivate relationships, how you problem solve, and how you manage stress. Emotions are involved in everything.
Yeah.
So this gives you a good sense of the internal voice, external voice, how you interact with others, how you problem solve, and how you manage stress. I think That's a good way of seeing it.
And when I look at it deeply, though, it makes sense because the thing that I'm aware of is showing on the assessment. Like I know I'm a people person. I'm outgoing. I know that I feel, I have empathy, but I didn't know at which level, like what the level of empathy I didn't know. But I care how other people feel and how they view and how I make them feel. If I come in a crowd, I'm always wary on my surrounding. Like a lot of people, like an American way is like you do you, everything revolves about you, around you. Mm-hmm. You're the center of the earth. You're better than everybody. I always don't think that. I don't always think that. When I come in a crowd, I know I'm not better than nobody, but I'm not smaller than nobody also.
What are some of the other things that jumped out at you?
The problem-solving thing, I think also stood up because I think I'm a problem solver, but whenever I'm in front of a problem, I have challenge. And that goes back to the accounting time. You look at yourself, or I look at myself, I think I'm a problem solver. You put me in anything, I'll find a solution. But then I've been in front of a situation where the solution or the route that I took wasn't the best solution for that particular problem.
And it showed that there's an opportunity, or at least when there are emotions involved, you retreat. So you show up in a very, very different way.
Yeah, but
would you say that may be cultural as well, similar to what you actually just shared?
Absolutely. Yeah, the emotion thing is I'm a Fulani, and Fulani people are herders. We herd cows in the Sahel, West Africa. And we're not supposed to show, like even if a lion comes to attack your cow, you should not run home and say, hey man, a lion attacked me today. You're supposed to stop there and stand there and fight it. Mm-hmm. They better come and pick your dead body that you're running home. Because if you run home, it's like, you're never even going to be able to get married because nobody want to get married to somebody who's scared, who has fear. So you don't show fear. You don't show fear.
But what's interesting, though, is that if you think about it, you're not there, right? You're in Dick, Ohio, for instance.
They say, I don't know who said it. Is it Freudian thing? They say anything that happened to you before the age of 5 is what determines how you behave and how you act the rest of your life. It's like psychological.
Yeah, but I think it's deep-seated. In the assertiveness space, there are a lot of other things that would pop up there that culturally, we don't speak up. At least from my perspective, I was raised with you're seen, not heard. So although I would have feelings about things, I wasn't always necessarily transparent with my words and thought.
We have the same thing in Niger. They say if you don't know how to speak, know how to shut up. So it's like people say that if you don't know how to speak, know how to shut up. Yeah, basically, that's what they say. So they put that in the head of the child, like from the really young age. So in every situation, unless I'm convinced that what I'm going to say is going to be really valuable, going to make me look smart, I'm bound to just shut up. And that really doesn't work in American culture. Voice your opinion here, voice your opinion. That's all you hear here. But when I grew up, that's not how it is. It's like, don't voice your opinion. No, unless it's really valuable.
Being aware of the things that we're carrying with us and how it might serve us well in one area, but not in others, right? I think the challenging thing, though, for me was looking at your empathy and how much you want to help, hearing the said about wanting to go back home and help. But it seems like you listen a lot, but you don't speak up as much. What is that about?
Well, that's why I decided to speak up through video. So, yeah, you listen, you learn, right? And, you learn. So speaking too much is not associated culturally anyway. For me, speaking a lot is not associated with wisdom. If you see somebody walking around and running their mouth, they're not considered wise. The wise man is always calm. He's always conserved. But once he speaks something valuable. He shares something that he adds value whenever he speaks. He's not just running around and speaking. So I don't know. I guess that's what I'm walking around with. But after all these years, I have to learn not to operate that way.
Because what happens is that in the culture here is that if you're in a room and you have an idea, you go out of that room. So you go into a meeting and you leave the meeting and you don't say anything. You don't get credit for being there. It's actually very, very different. But then culturally, the retreating from emotions and from conversations. So with you, it's like you want to help, but at the same time, you're not necessarily speaking up and you're retreating when there are emotions involved. What?
But I'm a very good listener. So I can listen to anybody problem, and people come to me all the time with their problem because I'm a good listener. I can listen for hours,
Right.
and I can advise them a little bit.
Right.
But I'm not
But
just
then what if you're listening for hours and there are things that you need to be doing? Is that kind of creating healthy boundaries? Because culturally, it's very different, right? The more you'll give someone, the more they'll want to take, right? So it's interesting. How do you manage that? How do you manage not burning out?
I think if you think that's your calling, if you think you're there to help people, I think it's easy to help people and without expecting an immediate reward out of it. Because I don't expect anything for it, I can manage it. If I can say.
But if it gets in the way of you accomplishing what you need to accomplish.
But the problem is, until now, I didn't know that's what's getting in a way of me accomplishing, and I guess that's why we do. So I didn't know that was an issue.
But do you ever feel like you've been in situations where you've taken on too much and then had a hard time delivering?
Yes, there's a lot of time when that happened, like where you overpromise, or people reach out to you and you're like, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. But I wasn't realizing it's just piling on each other. So it's like overpromising. How do I manage it? Just try my best to do what I promised to do.
It also looks like you have a hard time speaking up for yourself. You have to be your biggest advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
So it's important to kind of...
That's actually my one of my biggest issue. Yeah, like getting up and speaking up for myself. That's my biggest issue. But I can always speak for somebody else.
I am learning the same thing. But it was fascinating to see yours, right? So it's that you care so much, but don't create the boundaries. So you want to help. You care about helping.
Because I feel like it's rude to create a boundary.
Oh, wow.
I feel like it's being rude.
Is that cultural?
It's definitely cultural. Like you're not supposed to. It's correct. In my culture, if you say, Souley, I like this watch, I'm supposed to give it to you. I'm supposed to just take it and give it to you. And this thing actually happened when I moved to the US in 2001 with my friend. We went to Maine. And I had a traditional African bracelet. It's like silver. It's made with silver. So the friend we visited, her mom is like, oh, I like the bracelet. So I took it and I gave it to her. So everybody was confused. Why did he do that? But I'm like, she likes it, so I gave it to her. They're like, she doesn't mean like she likes it. So that's like the cultural thing. So if somebody wanted something, you're not supposed to say no. You cannot say no.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So then you're going to have to learn to say no. I'm going to be in Cleveland next month. So I'm going to come by and I'm going to like a lot of your...
Like, no, the heads up. Careful, the heads up. We're not coming to the office. We go somewhere else. We go to a coffee shop.
Thank you. This is always entertaining. I learned so much from you today that will shift my perspective. And I appreciate the moments that I spent with you.
Thanks so much for sharing your story.
Thanks, Nigel. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about this stuff that I haven't thought of in a long, long time. Like even this childhood stuff that I shared, I haven't shared them with anybody for a long time. And some of them, I never share them with anybody because I look at people, I'm like, they're going to just judge me and label me and move on. And so if I see somebody who's genuinely curious, just want to know for the sake of knowing, and for the sake of knowing, I'm very happy to share it. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. Really, really appreciate it. And I value that.
No, thank you. One of the things that I wish that people would get a chance, or over the time, I wish people would have taken just a few more moments to try to get to know me or translate me. So it warms my heart to hear you say that portion of it. But I appreciate the stories, and thank you.
Thanks, Nigel. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So what stayed with me from this episode, and I'm still buzzing? Change is constant, but change is not starting over. You are always just starting from where you are with the wealth of experience that you've gained along the way. Simply don't be afraid to ask. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. And just do your part, however small it is. Simply stated, but so powerful. I appreciate you listening to this episode. If you find value in what you've heard today, please like and share, and don't hesitate reaching out to me if there's any way that I can be of service. Nigel@meinkhelp.com or Nigel Franklin Way on Instagram. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your mental energy. Thank you for listening. Thank you for engaging. And until we meet again in this space, take good care of you.